I am Colleen Meyer, the Executive Director with Historic St. Mary's Mission in Stevensville, Montana. Stories of small history that are truly big history. St. Mary's of the Rockies, also known as the Mother of Missions. Before the Lewis and Clark expedition returned to St. Louis in 1806, fur trappers were already invading the streams of the western mountains and valleys, searching for valuable furs that were much in demand. A number of Iroquois Indians from Canada who were trapping for the Hudson's Bay Company found their way onto the Salish lands in the Bitterroot Valley, settled and intermarried. The Iroquois came from a nation which had been introduced to the Catholic teachings some 200 years earlier. In the light of the campfire, the Iroquois told stories of men who wore long black robes, the Jesuit missionaries who prayed to the Great Spirit and had good medicine. The black robes buried their dead and spoke of everlasting life. Impressed by this good news, which suited their own beliefs, the Salish Indians and their neighbors, the Nez Perce, were determined to have black robes of their own. In 1831, a delegation of braves traveled over 1,600 miles to St. Louis, Missouri to ask for missionaries, but no black robes were available. Over an 8-year period, the persistent Salish and Nez Perce sent a second, third, and fourth group of men. Even when 2 of these traveling delegations ended in death, the 4th deputation of braves set out for St. Louis. Their remarkable perseverance ended in triumph. Small stories of history that are truly big stories. It was September 24, 1841, when Father Pierre de Smet, together with his fellow Jesuit missionaries, Father Gregory Mangarini, Father Nicholas Point, Brother William Claussens, Brother Joseph Specht, and Brother Charles Hewitt arrived in the Bitterroot Valley. Their supplies were transported in 3 carts and a wagon, the first wheeled vehicles to enter the area. The first church and settlement were built on the east bank of the Bitterroot River near present-day Stevensville. Another small story began in October of 1845. Father Anthony Ravalli arrived at St. Mary's Mission carrying with him 2 burstones from which he, Brother Claussens, Brother Specht, and millwright Peter Bildot constructed the first water-powered flour mill and sawmill. Born in 1812 and blessed with superior talents, Antonio Ravalli might have achieved great fame in the arts, sciences, or mechanics had he remained in his homeland of Italy. Perhaps Antonio might have become a medical doctor. However, he chose an unselfish vocation of personal sacrifice in service to our Lord. Father Anthony Ravalli was eager to embrace his assignment as a missionary priest to serve among the Indian tribes of the Rocky Mountain region where he spent 40 years. As a priest, he served the Indians and settlers at St. Mary's from 1845 to 1850, and again from 1866 until his death in 1884. This compassionate and caring man attended anyone who needed his services. Father Ravalli traveled a radius of 200 miles, treating both medical and spiritual needs. He crossed icy streams and climbed jagged mountains during intense cold and summer heat. Father Ravalli was the first to inoculate the Indians against smallpox, to amputate frozen limbs and set broken bones. He learned the Salish language and earned a reputation among all people in the area for his skill and resourcefulness as a craftsman, physician, and pharmacist. Though never the superior at St. Mary's Mission, Father Ravalli had a more pronounced influence on the Bitterroot Valley than did any other Jesuit stationed there. In his ways, manners, and life, he was as simple as a child. He won people's hearts with his warm and caring spirit, which may account for him being called a great good man in his own time. Father Ravalli's remarkable contributions to Montana were recognized when the 1898 Montana Legislative Assembly named Ravalli County in his honor. This small story is getting bigger. Remembered mostly as the first of many missions in the Pacific Northwest, St. Mary's was much more. It was the first pioneer settlement in all of Montana, known as St. Mary's Village. Here the first gardens and crops were cultivated and grown with the help of Montana's first irrigation ditches. The first wheat was harvested and ground in Montana's first grist mill, thus establishing the roots of agriculture in Montana. The first cattle were raised and marked with the Cross on a Hill brand, the beginning of the cattle industry before statehood. The first logs were sawn and Montana's first clapboard buildings were assembled, from which the timber industry developed. The first classes were taught in the Salish language. The first band played numbers by German and Italian composers. Here the first church was built and the first pulpit placed for the teaching of our rich Catholic faith. As a mission, too, it was more than a first. St. Mary's of the Rockies was known as the mother of the missions. The Jesuit enterprises of the 3 Northwest states, an area the size of Western Europe today, with their handful of busy and talented missionaries, did more to transform this vast interior than any other group. St. Mary's Mission and the Jesuit missionaries were influential far beyond the borders of Montana. Stories of small history that are truly big history. In Missoula County, the first conveyance of property in Montana is registered from St. Mary's Mission to John Owen in 1850. While serving as General Superior of the Rocky Mountain Indian Missions and stationed at St. Mary's, Father Joseph Giorda was named the first chaplain of the 1866 Montana Territorial Legislature. In 1876, the first bridge was built over the Bitterroot River, 2 miles below Fort Owen. Stories of small history that are truly big history. As a national treasure, in 1941, the centennial of St. Mary's Mission was celebrated in a colorful and impressive memorial service. The apostolic delegate to the United States celebrated Mass honoring the memory of Montana's first missionaries. Cardinals, archbishops, bishops, priests, and sisters from across the nation came to celebrate the significance of the remarkable invitation made by the Indian tribes, which resulted in the arrival of 6 Jesuit missionaries 100 years earlier. An amphitheater seated hundreds, while thousands stood throughout the pontifical Mass. The Salish Indians themselves are a tribute to the lasting effects of the early efforts of the Jesuit fathers to prepare the Indians for the onslaught of Western migration, which so decimated the tribes when 2 cultures clashed. The Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes remained strong in governing themselves, in educating their children, and maintaining their culture and reverence for their ancestors. The Salish return each September to celebrate Mass in St. Mary's Chapel and to honor their family members who are buried in St. Mary's Cemetery. St. Mary's Mission tells a story of dauntless courage and perseverance. A guided tour of the historic site includes the 1866 chapel with attached study, dining room, and kitchen, as well as Father Ravalli's cabin and pharmacy. The rooms contain beautiful pieces of furniture handmade by Father Ravalli. The setting in each room appears as though the dedicated missionaries had just stepped out, perhaps to bring a bucket of water up from the Bitterroot River. The original cabin of Chief Victor houses a Salish Indian museum. Visitors may walk through St. Mary's Cemetery and visit the Indian burial grounds, as well as the gravesite of Father Anthony Ravalli. Within St. Mary's Chapel, visitors are amazed to see the incredible artistic and creative skills of Father Ravalli, reflected in his design of the handcrafted altar, candlesticks, baptismal font, and a sculpture of St. Ignatius of Loyola. A hand-carved statue of St. Mary stands above the altar. Many original pieces in the log chapel share the story of the Italian missionary who was an accomplished architect, artist, and sculptor. Father Ravalli constructed his log cabin in 1869. His residence contained several pieces of furniture handcrafted by the Renaissance man from Italy. which include a sturdy stool with a curious design which he used at his artist easel. A visitor can see a wooden stretcher with leather harness straps used to transport the sick and injured to his cabin for treatment. The cabin houses Father Ravalli's pharmacy, where he dispensed medicine to the Salish Indians and the settlers through a window known as Montana's first ride-up. In the pharmacy are 2 wooden medicine cases Father Ravalli carried horseback or in his buggy when traveling to treat the ill. While strolling the serene mission grounds in the shadow of St. Mary's Mountain, visitors are welcome in the Salish encampment to explore the lodges and learn about the native plants, including bitterroot flowers. The crabapple tree planted by Father Ravalli in 1869 continues to blossom each spring. The 148-year-old tree is a reminder of the enduring spirit of the Salish Indians and the pioneer missionaries. St. Mary's Visitor Center houses a museum filled with photographs and artifacts reflecting the lifestyle of the 19th century before Montana became a state. Showcased is a rare collection of Father Ravalli's books and hand tools. Also on display is a Holy Bible with a copyright of 1844 with the words handwritten, St. Mary's Mission, Bitterroot. This small story is Montana's big story of where Montana began. The founding of St. Mary's Mission is based on unique happenings and events that took place 48 years before Montana became a state. The first rare event occurred when the Indians invited white men to come into their world. Father DeSmit, with his companions, blazed the trail from St. Louis with a cross and introduced the Catholic faith in the Rocky Mountains. Embrace the history of St. Mary's Mission and share the stories of small history that are truly big history. Thank you.